even though it's still 100 degrees outside where I live on the day I'm filming this, Starbucks has released their seasonal beverages, which means it's officially fall in my mind. If you know me, you already know fall is without a doubt my absolute favorite season. I'm a fall girly at heart. I just love everything about it. Halloween, scary movies, oversized sweaters, Ugg boots, pumpkin spice, everything. Just the utter coziness that fall brings is unmatched. The leaves are about to start changing and the temperature is about to get cooler, which means it's the perfect time to curl up with a good book, relax, and just revel in all the cozy fall vibes. That being said, I have compiled a huge, overly ambitious TBR list for the fall season with books I already own, from thrillers to horror to fantasy to romance and everything in between. I have so many books to share with you guys. So light a candle, grab a blanket, get yourself a pumpkin cream cold brew or a little fall beverage, and cozy up for this video about all the books that I want to read this fall. Hi guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma for those of you who are new, and I would love it if you guys subscribed and stuck around. Welcome to my first fall video of the season. I am so excited to be sitting down and filming this video. Today we're just gonna be sitting down and chatting about my fall TBR, so all the books that I want to read this fall. I compiled this TBR list with books that I currently own, but let me know if you guys want to see another video like this with books that I don't currently have in my physical possession, so books that I've been eyeing for my fall TBR or something like that. Or if you guys want another book haul that's sort of fall related, just let me know because I can definitely do that as well. Just say the word and a fall themed book haul will be coming your way soon. Be sure to like this video and comment down below the books that are on your fall TBR that you guys are excited to read this season. Follow me over on TikTok and Instagram for more fall and bookish content. Also be friends with me over on Goodreads so we can keep up with each other in real time. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into all the books that I want to read this fall. Let's go ahead and get started with the mystery slash thriller category. I own quite a few books from this genre or genres that I've been wanting to read, and I feel like fall is the perfect time to pick up a mystery or thriller and just cozy up. So let's just go ahead and dive into this category because I have quite a few books that I want to share with you and that I want to get around to reading from this genre. So the first that I have in the mystery slash thriller category is The Mary Shelley Club by Goldie Moldavsky. This is a YA thriller type of horror book. On the back it says a little bit scream, a little bit Gossip Girl, a pulpy, page-turning suspenseful read that keeps you up all night. So this definitely sounds right up my alley. I've never heard anyone talk about this book, but I am a lover of Scream and Gossip Girl and just anything slasher, so I feel like this is going to be a great read for the fall, and we shall see if we get around to it, but definitely excited to read this book. Next up in this category, I'm so excited to read because it's actually being made into a TV adaptation. I have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series by Holly Jackson. I am so late to hop onto this bandwagon, but I have the first two books in the series. So I have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder and Good Girl Bad Blood. I have heard nothing but good things about this series. It's a 5-star series for a lot of people, so I'm excited to dive in. There's obviously more in the series, but I just have the first two. Next up, I have two series on my TBR by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So we'll start with the first one. This is the Inheritance Game series. I've read the first one, but I need to read the second and the third in the series, and then I believe another spin-off book was just released about the Hawthorne brothers. But the second book that I have is The Hawthorne Legacy. I believe this is the second one, and then the third in the series is called The Final Gambit. I haven't picked that one up yet because I haven't been able to find it in my town in paperback. But once I find the paperback, I will read that one. I believe I rated the Inheritance Games, the first one, a 4 stars, so I'm excited to pick it up. The one that I am more excited to read actually is The Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I just recently picked up the first in the series. The Naturals is basically about teenagers that are scouted or recruited by the FBI to solve infamous cold cases, and they all have different abilities. But I heard this rivals Criminal Minds, so the only difference is they're obviously teenagers. So excited to read this one. I've heard nothing but good things about the banter, about the pace, about the plot, about the characters. So I have For Found Dead by Natalie D. Richards. This is basically about like co-workers who are working at a movie theater that's about to close down, that's in like an abandoned mall, and basically on their last shift one of them is found dead, and so it's kind of about how they get out of the mall and the abandoned place, or like find the killer or something like that. So it kind of is like a thriller meets YA horror book, and I'm so excited to read this one. When I heard the synopsis of it, it just sounded so interesting and right up my alley. It kind of gives me like Fear Street vibes a little bit, but so excited to read this one, and I think this is going to be at like the top of my fall TBR for like October. So next up, I have two books that I actually just thrifted, and these are by Natasha Preston. So she is like a, I believe like YA thriller author, but I have The Twin and I have The Lake by Natasha Preston. The Lake is one that I've heard more people talk about, and I recently saw a couple booktubers give this one a 5-star, and then I also picked up The Twin, which I haven't heard many people talk about, but these are just super short and I've heard nothing but good things, and I thrifted these in like perfect condition. So excited to read these ones and see what the hype is about Natasha Preston. Next up, I have two books by Alex Michaelides. I think that's how you pronounce his name, but I have his most famous one, which is The Silent Patient. I've actually owned this since like end of 2021, so I think it's finally time that I get around to reading this one 2 years later. And then I also have The Maidens by him, which honestly sounds more interesting in my opinion than The Silent Patient, but I think you're supposed to read this one first because you'll get like the references that are in this one. I've heard nothing but good things about this author, especially The Silent Patient, so I feel like these ones are going to be great to add to my fall TBR. Next book I have is An Anonymous Girl by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. I also recently thrifted this book, but if you watched my last book haul, I actually hauled the hardcover, but when I saw the paperback version, I was so excited, and I feel like it's going to make me want to pick this one up more because I'm a paperback girl through and through. It sounds super interesting, so I'm excited to read it, and I feel like these two authors are like co-authors and they write like all of their books together, so if this one's any good, I'll definitely want to pick up more from this authors. And then the last book that I have in this category has also been on my TBR for years, but I have The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I'm not sure if this is like qualified as mystery or thriller. I know this is like dark academia. Honestly, going into this one is super blind because I don't exactly know what it's about, but I feel like it just gives fall. Dark academia just gives fall, and I feel like there's a little bit of a thriller or mystery in here, so excited to read it nonetheless. I guess I forgot to mention that this is like an overly ambitious fall TBR. I'm probably not going to get around to reading all of these books. I wish I could, but that's just not me. Definitely not going to get around to reading even a fraction of these books, but a girl can dream. So the next genre I have is horror. I only have a couple books for this category, which is actually super weird for me because I absolutely love horror movies, and I remember reading like YA horror as a genre a lot growing up. So let me know if you guys have any good like horror or scary book recs, and I'll definitely be sure to pick some of them up and maybe film like a spooky scary reading vlog this season. The first I have is an iconic horror book, horror movie by an iconic horror author, and that is It by Stephen King. I actually have like one of like the old like 90s or like original covers of it, but I saw this one at Half Price Books and it's in pristine condition, and I just love this cover. But this book is thick. I think I have read it before, like a while ago, like maybe in middle school or high school. Don't remember honestly, but I feel like this one is just like a rite of passage for like horror book lovers and that sort of thing. Honestly, eager to read this one, but nervous as well, so I feel like the size might be like too intimidating for me to pick up. I just had to add it because you can't have a fall TBR without a Stephen King book. So I actually picked this book up a couple days ago. I thrifted this one as well, so a lot of good thrift finds. Let me know if you guys want like a full thrifted book video because I've thrifted a lot of my book collection actually. But I have Bones and All by Camille DeAngelis. This is actually a movie with Timothy Chalamet and Taylor Russell, which, can we take a second? If you are a Harry girl, how do you feel about Taylor and Harry? Because I absolutely love Taylor Russell and Harry Styles together. I just feel like they make sense in my head, and I've always been a fan of Taylor Russell. So if they're endgame, like I don't even care that she stole him from me. But anyways, this is a YA horror like fiction, I guess, and I think it's about like cannibalism and stuff. So haven't seen the movie just yet, but I can read the book now that I've thrifted it, and again, another thrifted book that's in like pristine condition. So that's my horror category. Very short, very sweet, very simple. But again, let me know if you guys have any good horror book recommendations that I can pick up and read this fall season. Okay, I thought thriller and mystery was going to be my largest category, but fantasy is actually my largest category, and this is so ambitious. I have so many fantasy books on my TBR that I have not read. So let me clear some space so I can show you guys all of the fantasy books on my fall TBR. It is going to be a pain in the butt putting all of these books away after I film this video. So I wish you guys could see how many books are around me right now. I feel like I'm going to include like the behind the scenes in a vlog that I'm filming, but there are so many books around me, it's insane. The next category I have, I'm so excited about. We are going to be chatting about all the fantasy books I want to read this fall. I just recently started dabbling into fantasy and I have thoroughly enjoyed all the books I've read from this genre so far, but I feel like fall is the ideal time to pick up a fantasy book and really immerse yourself in a new make-believe world. Hence why I have quite a few fantasy reads on my TBR list this season. So let's just rapid fire through these, shall we? I actually have quite a few still left on my bookshelf because they're series, but I literally did not want to get them all off my shelves. But the first one I have, I just picked up one book from the series. I need to finish the ACOTAR series. So I've read A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury, but I need to read the rest of the book. So I have A Court of Wings and Ruin, A Court of Frost and Starlight, and A Court of Silver Flames. I have 2 copies of this. I have like the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, which is stunning. And then I also have just the original one. Definitely need to finish the ACOTAR series. I'm hoping to finish it next month because while these books are quite large, I read them so quickly. Like I literally think I read A Court of Thorns and Roses in a few days and A Court of Mist and Fury in just like a couple of days. So I feel like I can definitely breeze through this series. I just need to get around to actually picking them up and finishing them. Next, while we're on the topic of Sarah J Maas, I also have the entire Throne of Glass series that I need to read. I have every single book in the new covers and I am so excited to read the series. I just want to finish ACOTAR first before starting another Sarah J Maas series because this one is going to take some dedication. I just know it. Not only is the series so large, but I'm also a new fantasy reader, so I don't know if I'm gonna like it. But it's also third person, which I mentioned in my last book haul. I'm not a fan of third person, but I feel like I'm just gonna have to make it work because I really want to read the series because I've heard nothing but good things about it. So we shall see if we get around to it this fall, but crossing my fingers that we do. And then to wrap up my Sarah J Maas collection, I have Crescent City. So I have the UK covers of House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath. I just need to get around to reading these as well before the third one comes out in January. So hopefully there will be a reading vlog for these, but I just can't get over how beautiful the covers are of these books. I have probably the most hyped fantasy book of all time on TikTok and BookTok and everything. I have Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I am so excited to read this book, but I have to get around to it obviously. So hopefully I choose this one in like a TBR video coming up soon, but excited to read this one and I will definitely try and film a reading vlog or at least share my thoughts with you guys. Okay, next up, I actually had no idea that this was a fantasy, but it makes sense because this author pretty much only writes fantasy. But I have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is kind of like an adult fantasy, dark academia, that kind of thing. So it says a tale of power, privilege, dark magic, and murder among the Ivy League elite. So dark academia meets Ivy League meets rich people meets magic. I don't really know, but I'm so excited to read this book and I feel like this one just screams fall to me. I also have to finish the Caraval series by Stephanie Garber. So I have Legendary and Finale, which are the second and the third book in the series. And then going right along with that, I have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I actually started reading Once Upon a Broken Heart a few months ago, but I just couldn't get into it. So I feel like I need to finish the Caraval series first and then we can read Once Upon a Broken Heart, and then I need to pick up The Ballad of Never After, and then the third book also comes out in the next like couple months. So excited to read these ones. I really enjoyed Caraval, so I'm hoping that I'll enjoy the rest of the series and Once Upon a Broken Heart as well. Plus, can we just talk about Stephanie Garber's like covers? This one is probably the prettiest book that I own, and that alone just makes me want to read it. So okay, next up I have a few like witchy books. So I don't know if these qualify as fantasy, but to me they would, or at least be like romance fantasy. I honestly don't know anything about these books other than they seem very fall. So the first one I have, I've had for a couple of years now. That is The Ex-Hex by or not Lauren Sterling, Erin Sterling, and I'm super excited to read this one. And it just sounds like a cute little like fantasy, like witchy kind of like rom-com in a sense. And then I have 2 books by Lana Harper. I have Payback's a Witch and then From Bad to Curse. So never read anything like that or anything of that genre, but I feel like I would really enjoy it and it would be right up my alley. Next up, I have quite a few books by Leigh Bardugo. So I actually have the Six of Crows duology, and I have the other one on my bookshelf, but I couldn't find it. But I have both of the books in the Six of Crows duology. But then I also just recently thrifted the entire Shadow and Bones trilogy. So I have Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and Ruin and Rising. And you guys, I don't know how I'm getting lucky with the thrifted books, but these are legit perfect condition. Like, it doesn't even look like they've been read. And these have been on my TBR for so long. I was putting off reading the Six of Crows duology because I wanted to read Shadow and Bone first, just so I can get into the Grishaverse, watch the show, all of that sort of thing. I definitely think I'm gonna pick up the Shadow and Bone trilogy first and then read Six of Crows, because I feel like this one sort of world builds and introduces you to the Grishaverse, so Six of Crows is a little bit easier to understand and digest. We shall see, but I have a lot of Leigh Bardugo on my TBR for this season, and I'm super excited because I've never read anything by her. I have Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. This is, I think, the first in the Kingdom of the Wicked series. Not sure what these are about either, but I just love the covers, and I've heard Sarah Caroli talk about a couple of the books in the series, so hence why I picked it up. And then another book I've heard Sarah Caroli talk about, I have Renegades by Marissa Meyer. This is kind of like a superhero sort of dystopian novel, but I classify this as fantasy as well. So excited to read this one, and I've heard nothing but good things about Marissa Meyer's writing. And then just 2 more books in this category. So I have The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake. Not really sure what this one is about as well. I don't know if this classifies as dark academia, but I just love the cover, and this one has been on my TBR for so long. And then last but not least, in the fantasy category, I have Crave by Tracy Wolff. I have wanted to read this series for so long. I've literally had this book for like 2 or 3 years at this point, but I loved Twilight growing up. I literally read all of those books. It's weird that I don't currently own them on my physical collection because I used to have the whole series, so I definitely need to repurchase those and read those as well. I have Crave by Tracy Wolff, and I just want to read the first one just to see if I like it. I would prefer it in paperback, so if I find it in paperback, I'm definitely gonna pick it up. But I just feel like I would love these books and I would eat them up. Not necessarily that they would be good, but I feel like I would enjoy them. So okay, next up, I have quite a few books in the romance category. So I'm a sucker for the romance genre in a romance novel in any season, but romance is what I primarily read and primarily own, so I feel like the fall is the perfect time to sort of knock down my TBR and sort of narrow down the romance books that I have on my TBR currently. I don't think any of these are necessarily fall themed, but I have a lot of romance books on my TBR that I want to get through. But let's go through all of these books that are on my TBR. The first one I've had for a while. I believe this is a YA sort of romance, but this is Today, Tonight, and Tomorrow. Not sure what it's about, going into it completely blind, but I've heard a lot of people say that this book is like one of their favorites, and I don't know, I'm just excited to read it. Next, I'm actually so excited to read this one, and I don't know why this one screams fall and like winter to me, but it does. But I have From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata, and I believe this is like a figure skating romance, so definitely excited to see what the hype is about. Next up, I have a book that I thrifted. So this is Emergency Contact, and I have never heard anyone talk about this book, but it just seems interesting. So I believe it's like 2 people who go away to college, and whether they meet at college or they knew each other in high school, I don't really know, but basically they just develop like a relationship through like texting. So I guess when they like cross paths, like this is their way of like flirting and getting to know each other, is just like talking to each other and like spilling the beans, I guess. I don't really know, but it's dual point of view romance, and I feel like it's just gonna be super cute and a fast-paced read. So definitely want to pick this one up soon, actually, because I want to see if it's one that I want to recommend to you guys, because I haven't heard many people talk about it. Next up, I have Rock Bottom Girl by Lucy Score. I feel like this one will be a fun one to read in the fall time because it's about like a soccer coach, and I feel like where I went to high school, soccer was like a fall sport for the girls, so I don't know, I feel like this one will be a fun little fall rom-com to read, but don't really know much about it other than that. I have quite a few Ali Hazelwood reads, so I have 3 books on my TBR currently by Ali Hazelwood. I have The Love Hypothesis, Love on the Brain, and Love Theoretically, and I'm not going to talk much about this because I've talked about it in a book haul and book videos before, I don't know why I have Ali Hazelwood books, and I've had them for like 2-something years, most of them, and I just haven't read them. But hopefully once I choose my TBR with my TBR jar, I don't know if that video is up before this one or not. If it is, I'll link it in the cards and down below. But hopefully I get a prompt that will allow me to choose an Ali Hazelwood book, because I've heard nothing but good things and I definitely need to pick some up this fall. Okay, I've been sitting here for way too long and I have too many books, and I still have one more category that I need to show you. So I'm just gonna group all of these in together and rapid fire through these. So I have Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams, Wait for You by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and Once More with Feeling by Alyssa Sussman. So in the fall time, I just sort of crave a book that I can just cozy up with and read in 1 or 2 sittings, and I feel like romance is perfect for that. It's my favorite genre for a reason. I just feel like it's so easy to read and it's mindless. You don't have to think too much about romance books, which I really enjoy. Any time of the year, romance is unmatched because I can just breeze through a romance read like it's nothing. So I feel like this season is going to be perfect for me to sort of tackle my romance TBR so I can buy more, obviously. Okay guys, thank you for bearing with me. We are nearing the close of this video, but the final set of books I have to share with you are just general fiction or just random picks that I have on my shelves and that I've had for a while that don't really fall into any of these other categories. So let's just rapid fire through these. The first book that I have is Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors. I have had a few of my friends recommend this book, but I don't typically reach for literary fiction. So next up is, I think, a literary fiction as well, or just a fiction in general. I'm not sure if this has anything to do with romance, but I feel like this is just kind of like a coming of age, coming into yourself as like a young professional book. But I have 100 Other Girls by Aman Hariri-Rakia. It's just kind of like a Devil Wears Prada sort of vibe set in New York City. So if you like Devil Wears Prada, Sex and the City, I've heard really good things about this one, and I feel like this is this author's first novel. I found her on TikTok and I just loved the cover of the book, and I just love supporting like small up-and-coming authors. Next up is actually a memoir. So this is The Lonely City, The Adventures in the Art of Being Alone. I've heard a lot of people recommend it for people in their 20s, mid-20s, whatever, just who are a little bit lost in life. And I feel like that is me. That is like, I'm literally the definition of being lost in your 20s and really not knowing what you want to do with your life and just feeling sort of out of place. So I feel like this book might help me come to terms with that, but we shall see. I just threw it into this category. Next up, I have a book by one of my favorite authors. I only have a couple books left to read by this author, and I feel like this one is perfect for the fall time. So I have Carrie Soto Is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Heard nothing but good things, again, because Taylor Jenkins Reid is a phenomenon. Like, she's literally amazing. But I also wanted to read this because Zendaya's new movie is coming out in September, like the end of this month, where it's like Challengers or whatever, and she's like a tennis player. So I feel like this one would be fun to read before or after going to see that movie. I don't know, the tennis and like female empowerment just came into my head, but excited to read this one, and I feel like I'll like it because I love all Taylor Jenkins Reid books. Next up, I have a couple more sad books with like heavier topics. Be sure to research trigger warnings thoroughly before you pick up any of these books, but I have The Way I Used to Be, My Dark Vanessa, and then A Little Life, and I feel like I've heard people only talk about these in like sad reading vlogs, like only reading sad books for a week and that sort of thing. So maybe I will film a video like that, but I have to mentally prepare myself to read these. A couple of these have been on my TBR for a long time, and I just haven't felt like I've been ready to read them, but I have been gravitating more towards this one because a smaller booktuber I follow just recently said that she rated this a 5 stars and that it was a beautiful book. So excited to pick these up and see what the hype is about them, especially A Little Life, but I just want to make sure that I am in the right headspace to do so. So just think about that whenever you go into a book. Just always research trigger warnings if you think they're going to be an issue for you. But need to get around to reading these because I do enjoy sad, like deep emotional books. I just don't read them very often. Only a couple more books. I have Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. I believe this is like an LGBTQ plus romance, like a historical romance, historical fiction about like a lesbian club and that sort of thing. So I will definitely keep you guys updated if I get around to reading this book. The next book that I have is my beloved series, Magnolia Parks. I have Daisy Hates The Great Undoing by Jessa Hastings, and I have read the first 2 books in the Magnolia Parks universe. This is the last book currently. There's another book coming out, but I need to pick up the 3rd book in the series before I read this one, which is the 2nd Magnolia Parks book, but the 3rd in the series. And then this is the 2nd Daisy Hates book, but the 4th in the series. And Jessa Hastings just also announced her newest book, which is like a Peter Pan Neverland sort of fantasy book, and I just know that's probably going to be my favorite book I ever read, because Peter Pan was like my favorite Disney movie growing up. I absolutely loved anything Peter Pan, anything Neverland, and I love Jessa Hastings' writing, so I just cannot imagine how beautiful and lyrical her book is going to be. So I'm definitely going to pre-order that one, but just want to get around to reading the most beautiful series I've ever read. Literally a 10-star series for me. I cannot say enough good things, even though I haven't finished it yet. I just know that it's gonna be ranked like up there. Okay guys, now that we have been filming for over an hour, that is all the books that are on my fall TBR. Obviously, just want to put it out there, like right now, I'm not even going to make a dent in this TBR, I guarantee it, because this is so overly ambitious for me. I also just recently got a Kindle, which I'll talk about in another video dedicated to that Kindle, but there are so many books on Kindle Unlimited that I want to read, and that just scream fall, from fantasy to dark romances and all of that sort of thing, that I know my Kindle is also going to be taking up a lot of my time, so I probably won't even make like a dent or read a fraction of these books. But I just thought it'd be fun to go through my bookshelves and just pick out books that I've been wanting to read for a while and that kind of give off fall vibes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to like it, comment down below what books are on your fall TBR that you guys are excited about. Be sure to subscribe and follow me over on all of my socials. But stay tuned for a bunch of fall content, especially fall bookish content, fall vlogs, all of that sort of thing. This is my absolute favorite season of the year. The Burr months, like October, November, December, I just feel like myself. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.